Starting college can be a scary and an exciting thing. It's a new time in your life. For most, it's their first time being on their own and truly starting to get a feel for what adulthood will look like. And for some, it's where they get to experiment and get to find themselves. But what if that was the least of your worries in your newly found freedom, and especially in your new dorms? What would you do if you found out your school was haunted? Why don't we find out? You ready? Hi, and welcome back to Pinky Boo Hauntings. I'll be your witchy host, Shy, and I'll be your guide to all things paranormal, weird, and spooky. And today we're going to be talking about the Appalachian State University. Yep, we're heading to the Appalachian Mountains, one of the most mysterious places in America. So, of course, a university based in this area would have its own strange going ons and hauntings. Appalachia State University, also known as App State, is nestled within the mountains of Boone, North Carolina. Now, hold on before you come for me. I didn't realize this university was from North Carolina. I found a story about this school in a book that has ghost stories from all over the state. I didn't realize until I already had it in the schedule and started doing the research for it. I do want to take the deep dives out of North Carolina more. That's why I did the last one on the Bell Witch. And even then, the bells were from North Carolina. Something I also didn't know going into the research. I swear I will try to get out of the state for these deep dives. Luckily, there is one place I have on the list that I'm pretty sure isn't connected to the state in any way. But if you have anywhere you'd like me to do an episode on, please send them in to me. Maybe that could also help me broaden my horizons, since I'm clearly not doing a good job on my own. Oh, and one more little tangent before I get back into the history and ghost stories, because I thought it was funny. Not only was I surprised that this university is in North Carolina, because there is a chance I had to take a tour of it in middle school. They made us go to what felt like every college in our state, after all. But I was also cackling at the fact that I ended up picking a place my dad's side of the family was from. Like, I was far more surprised to find out this school even existed because of where it is. I always just assumed Boone was just this nowhere town and had nothing going on in it. Anyways, that's enough of that. Let's get back to the history of the school so we can get into the good stuff. Appalachian State was founded as a teacher's college back in 1899 by brothers Beebe and Dee Dee Daughtry, with Dee Dee's wife Lily Scholl Daughtry. They were the group that all were from Watauga County, wanted to start this school to help educate the teachers of the northwestern part of North Carolina. Their father wanted to help them with their ventures and donated land for the school. J.F. Hardin also wanted to lend a hand to the three and donated land as well. Once they had the land, citizens from around the town and the county all came together to build a wooden frame building that cost only $1,000. I know back in the 1800s, $1,000 was a lot, but when I first saw that, I'm not gonna lie, it took me a minute to process it. I also couldn't find out how big the building was when they first built it, but I did look up how much $1,000 would be in today's money. It's about 26,000. And it didn't make me feel any better. Because from what I can tell, this original school was still a fairly large building. So the fact that they did all of this for less than a down payment on a crappy house nowadays makes me sad. Anyways, let's get back on track. When this school first opened, it wasn't known as Appalachian State just yet. It was known as Watauga Academy. It helped those in isolated and rural areas get the education they deserved. The school opened with 53 students enrolled in 3 grades. While the brothers were co principals of the academy, Lily was teaching all 3 grades all on her own, while also providing help with the administrative decisions. That lady was doing way too much on her own. Don't get me wrong, she's badass for being able to do all of that, but what's the point of the brothers at this point? It seems like she's doing triple the work while the co principals do hardly anything. Not that I'm surprised at all. But thanks to her hard work, the academy quickly blows up. Word gets around to neighboring counties, and many show interest in enrolling to the school. So in 1903, Dede had convinced himself that the state would help fund the school if it was established as a training school for teachers. I don't know what made him believe this, but after drafting a bill, he went to Raleigh. I won't get into the details of all that, but the bill was made into law, and Appalachian Training School for Teachers was officially established. It opened on October 5th, 1903, with 325 students, which is crazy to me because that rural school from 1903 had more students than my graduating class in high school. And no, I didn't grow up in the mountains or anything like that. From here, the school keeps growing and weirdly changing names a few times. In 1925, it becomes the Appalachian State Normal School because we need to make sure people know it's a normal school. And in 1929, it changes its name to Appalachian State Teachers College, probably because the other name sounded stupid. And finally, in 1967, it became what it's known to this day, Appalachian State University. It took them 134 years to settle on a name for this school, but they did it. A name change isn't all that's happened in those 134 years. The school grew larger and larger with each new name. What was once a simple 2-story school with only 53 students became a 13-acre college town with over 21,000 students. And while I'm sure those that attend the school today pick the school for many reasons, like maybe they found a program that they liked, or maybe they even fell in love with the beautiful campus tucked within the mountains. Whatever their reason for choosing this school, I'm sure it had nothing to do with the ghosts that lived there. Well, I'm sure there is someone that would pick a school because it was haunted. It's probably one of you listening right now. Don't lie. If you found out one of the schools you were looking at was haunted, you'd probably choose it. But for a lot of people, that's the last thing on their mind. So imagine their surprise when they move into the dorms just to come face to face with one of the many ghosts that live in this school. Speaking of the dorms, let's talk about the freshman dorms. The East Residence Hall is a historic dormitory that was built in 1952. This red brick building was built against a steep hill, leaving this U-shaped construction with 3 floors and 2 wings and 5 floors in the oldest wing. And in these halls, some of the oldest ghost stories are told. Hauntings seem to have started around 1960, so only 8 years after this dorm was first built. People were already talking about the ghosts that were living amongst them. People report things like whispering voices, sounds of someone walking through the halls, and balls of lights hovering near the ceilings in some rooms. It is said that a student committed an early exit on the ground floor. On September 29th, 1977, a freshman named Lancey Dean Everett was found dead in his dorm within the East Hall. He was from Greensboro, and from the get go, he seemed very motivated, running and winning his election for a senator in the Student Government Association. Though he wasn't much for words, he did seem to be respected by his peers. So it must have come to a huge shock when his roommate found his body lifeless and with a gunshot wound to the temple. No one seemed to know why he would take his own life, and sadly, there was no good bookend to this story. Just a freshman that seemed to have everything going for him, dealing with something he didn't seem to speak to anyone about. Whatever it was, he felt he had no other choice but to leave this earth only a month after starting his college career. Years after this tragedy, people began to talk about the paranormal activity, and eventually they had a Dorm of Doom Halloween attraction as well, which I don't know, that makes me feel a type of way. People have tried to justify this attraction by saying it's not about Dean and what he did, but about the legacy of the paranormal activity within East Hall, which I don't know, still feels a little weird since it only started 8 years after Dean's death. Oh, and like I said, this dorm is mostly known as the freshman dorms, with most of them living on the ground floor. The people that are fresh out of high school and probably their first time ever living on their own. This is the last thing you want to deal with in those kinds of conditions. It also means that a lot of these people moving into these dorms have yet to learn about the stories that surround the hall. So it kind of helps you believe these people when they say they have experienced something. One freshman had an experience along with his girlfriend. One night, while they were sleeping in his dorm, they both said at different times at night they saw something strange. When he woke up, he said he saw a figure just standing next to his roommate's bed. Thinking it was just a weird dream, he went back to sleep. It wasn't until the next day, when his girlfriend woke up, that he started to realize what he saw wasn't just a dream. She told him about the crazy dream she had last night and how there was a black figure just standing in the corner beside his roommate's bed. It was around that time that he told her about his dream. It's not said, but I do wonder if after they talked about their shared dream, if he was a little freaked out staying in that room. I also wonder if he told his roommate about his and his girlfriend's experience. 'Cause I don't know if I would tell them or not. Like, how do you bring that up? But this person isn't the only one that has told about their experience from this hall. Another resident claimed to have been pushed over by an unseen force when they were heading towards the bathroom. They even said they heard a voice murmur something like, "My dorm." Which, damn, what did that person do to you? They were just trying to go to the bathroom. Like, did they happen to be living in your old dorm or something? I mean, I could see it with the spirit mumbling my dorm, but I don't think a lot of people get to choose their dorms freshman year. So it's not their fault they're in the spirit's dorm. I would say this could be Dean, but I would think there would be some idea of where his dorm was. And I think they'd mention something if they were in or around that dorm. There is another famous ghost within these halls. She is a female spirit that most people call Ginny. I couldn't pinpoint who the spirit was because there seems to be some mixed stories on who she is, but the one that most believe is her true origins is the story of an employee that was taken, assaulted, and then murdered on September 24th, 1989. It is said that she now walks the halls in this building, and there have been those that have seen her as well. I do think it's funny how this building is well known for being haunted, and yet finding any details on an actual haunting seems to be hard. It seems like it's just your usual rumors of whispers and maybe an apparition, maybe footsteps. Just weird things seem to be happening in this building, and everyone agrees that it's haunted. They just don't want to tell their story in detail, I guess. But this isn't the only hall that is haunted. In fact, the I.G. Greer Hall also has a ghost of its own. This wing was built in 1967 during an expansion onto Wilburn Cafeteria. At least, I think so. The wording on the university's site is kind of weird because it also says this hall was built in the 1950s and in 1967 as well. But I'm going to assume that was a mistake because most things seem to say it's built in 1967. It only showed up once saying that it was built in the 50s, so if I'm wrong and it's just built next to the cafeteria, don't come for me. Tell the university to do a better job at proofreading their site, because I couldn't find too much on it, and I was thinking I could trust that side of all things, but maybe I shouldn't have. Anyways, while the building houses things like student services, offices for the schools of arts and science, international programs, as well as the Department of Philosophy and Religion, the hall is most known for a small auditorium. The reason it's known for this auditorium is because it was once used as a film screening location. Now, though, it's probably more known for its haunting. It is said that a projectionist died while working decades ago. Now, people report sounds of a film reel spinning with no one in the booth, as well as lights flickering on and off at random. Doors are also said to lock and unlock themselves. And while most could easily ignore these things as just strange happenings, what some have reported is a little harder to explain. See, some have seen an apparition of a man in a hat. They say he appears in the projection booth. He doesn't seem to be bothering anyone, so I'd assume he's just there doing the job he loved. At least, I hope so, 'cause it would suck if he was coming back to a job he hated, or if he didn't know he was dead. So, why don't we just assume he did enjoy his job? Because it's less sad that way. If nothing else, you definitely can say he's a good worker, right? I definitely wasn't expecting there to be more workers hanging around than students. Maybe that's just me, but it being a college, I don't know. Wouldn't you expect there to be more stories of students haunting the place instead of workers? Please tell me I'm not the only one. I'm starting to feel bad for thinking it now. Why don't we move on to our next location? And the last one on campus. We're going from ground level to under the campus to the tunnels. Yep, that's right. The buildings aren't the only thing with ghosts living within them. You could even be walking over a spirit as you're heading to class. So if you do go to that school, just think about that next time, maybe. Or not. It might creep you out. But the tunnels were originally used for utilities and maintenance, and are for the most part off limits to most, especially students. They are not allowed in there at all. I know, it's such a shocker, right? So, of course, between that and the rumors surrounding it, people are going to want to check it out. If for nothing else, then to have fun and give themselves a scare. People tell stories of a student that went down into the tunnels, never to return. While it is hard to tell if this is fact or myth, people still pass this tale down to each new class. They also love to spread the legend of the secret rituals that take place within the tunnels. What are the rituals? Who knows? I'm sure it's exactly what you're picturing: black robes, probably a symbol on the ground, maybe some fire somewhere, and blood of some kind everywhere. You know, the usual. Either way, this sounds like the perfect place some teenagers would love to explore. And while I'm sure most of the stories are just that, but people still claim to hear phantom footsteps echoing through the underground passages, as well as hearing growls and whispers. So I guess it is possible someone might have been messing with something they shouldn't have and brought something in there. What? I'll leave that up to you. But people do swear that something is lurking in the forbidden area. Our last stop on this haunted tour of the university is technically not directly on the campus, but just outside of the Boone City limits. And a lot of the students are known to visit, so I think it counts. This church is known as the Chapel of Rest. It is a serene but unsettling place, with deep connections to the region's history. It was erected all the way back in 1887 and is older than the university itself. And even to this day, it looks as though it is frozen in time. It's a cozy building that hardly looks like it could hold more than 100 people at a time. And yet, it is known for two ghosts that still linger here. Between the beautiful scene and the ghostly residents, it's no wonder this place is popular between both casual visitors and paranormal investigators. Many claim to hear sounds of weeping or ghostly singing throughout the chapel. Others say they feel unexplainable cold spots appear out of nowhere. And one of the strangest occurrences is that of an apparition. People who have seen her describe her as a woman in 19th century clothing. She drifts through the pews or is sometimes seen standing outside of the church. She is assumed to be the one heard crying or singing, though there are no clues on who she could be. So sadly, we may never know why she's there or why she's crying. If it is her that is crying, of course, because there is another spirit here, and probably the most famous of the two. Mostly because it is said he left a reminder of himself behind. Back in the 1920s, the pastor at the time found his wife was having an affair. Broken-hearted over this discovery, he felt he had no other option but to end it all. Saturday night, before Sunday service, he hung himself from the wooden rafters within the church. Which, not gonna lie, what a way to probably traumatize not only your wife, but the whole congregation. 'Cause even if the doors were locked, I'm sure they go looking around to see what is going on. So these people would have thought they were going to their weekly church service just to find him instead. He made a statement, I guess. And like I said before, he also left his mark on this place. It is said that the discolored spot on the old wood floorboards is that of the pastor's blood. People believe that this spot is the exact spot where he hung himself. And legend says no matter how many times they try to get rid of it, it keeps coming back. I don't know if that part is true for sure, but there are pictures to this day of a mysterious stain. Visitors have also claimed that at night you can see a figure hanging through the windows. And sadly, it is rumored because of these people's beliefs, the pastor wasn't allowed to be buried within the church graveyard and was instead laid to rest just outside of the walls, which I think is bullshit. Just because he took his own life doesn't mean you should disrespect him like that. It's probably no wonder he still roams that area. He probably wants people to remember what these people did to him at his lowest point. Like, I could get it if he did something horrible, but he was just in a really bad place and felt he had no other way out of it. Doesn't seem like he should have been buried outside of the church graveyard, the same church he dedicated his life to. Y'all could have showed him a little respect by giving him a burial within the church graveyard. Instead, he seems stuck there, wondering why his life turned out the way it did. But this could be why all of them are there. And with this university being tucked within the Appalachian Mountains, it's no wonder there are so many spirits just hanging around that area. These mountains are known for being mysterious and full of a strange, old energy. So, the university that has decided to call them home would also be full of the same strange energy. So, if you're looking to further your education at Appalachian State University, keep in mind you might be sharing your dorm with an extra supernatural roommate. Get pushed by an unseen force, or you may see or hear some unexplained things while rushing to classes. But you do also get to spend your college years in a town buried within the mountains that feels pulled right out of a Hallmark movie, just without the cheesy, overdone romance plot. Or maybe you'll get it all. Just remember, you'll probably be haunted as well. So it may not be the fairy tale you wish for in the end. But if you can handle that, this school might be the place for you. So tell me, have you thought about applying to this school or did you go to this school? If you did and you have a paranormal experience, why not tell me about it? I really would love to know what goes on within those halls because it's really hard to find anyone that really wants to tell their story about it. Hell, if you have any paranormal experiences you'd like to share, why not send me an email so I can read them on the podcast? I don't know about you, but when others share their paranormal stories, it makes me feel a little less alone in my experiences. And that's why I want to hear all of your stories. I believe it would help us all feel a little less alone. Honestly, I hope this podcast as a whole does that as well. And if it does help you feel a little less alone, or you're just enjoying the podcast, please rate and review. As well as like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. You can also help the podcast by sharing the word of the coven. It really does help out. But for now, the coven is adjourned. See you next time. Bye.